Hi, my name is Kayla Koh. I am a mobility and performance coach, fascial stretch specialist, an educator, lifestyle entrepreneur, and last but not least, a mother of three. I actually used to be in school for nursing. So when I was in school for nursing, I knew I wanted to at least help the sick. And when I was placed in a placement, I was actually at a rehab center where the floor was pretty much filled with people who had just had a hip or knee replacement surgeries or an amputation. Understanding that, I was just more so, I started when you're a student, all you know is you have a generic sense of what sickness is, but when you get to a point where you're just like, oh my gosh, people are replacing their knees and their hips, getting their limbs, surgically removed. I was just like, how do people even get to this point? There's never mind trying to take care of them while they're already at that point, but how do they get to that point? And so the main disease that majority disease that led up to those situations where a hip or knee replacement was required or an amputation was osteoarthritis, and which is inflammation of the joints, and also diabetes. So from there, I was like, oh wow, I've heard of these illnesses or these diseases, didn't know it could get to that point. So I think from that, I was more so is there such thing as a way to not get to this tipping point? And through that was where the curiosity began of seeking ways to, reduce that tipping point or prevent people from sort of getting there to the point where now they're in a hospital and the end result, it might have to be, let's say, a hip or knee replacement, or let's say you get a diagnosis of arthritis or diabetes. How do we manage that in a way where they don't get to that point to either get a hip replacement or a knee replacement? Or even amputation. So through that is what sparked the interest and how I started to look into other ways to prevent getting there. So following the event of being curious about preventative health or how to not get into the hospital with those surgeries, I maintained a healthy lifestyle myself. I was into different forms of movement. I started my career as a personal trainer at that point, probably almost 15 years ago now. And then through that, I realized that I just didn't have a period. So when I didn't have a period, I didn't think of it as much because, I do hear did the regular Google search, internet search, and apparently that's something that could happen. It took a few months because 3 months became 6 months, 6 months became 9 months. It was almost about a year until I decided to, I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna just ask a doctor. So did a few tests. They checked my hormones, and I remember sitting in the office. I think I saw 2 doctors because they were like, okay, hormones seem fine. Let's do an ultrasound. And then when I went to the doctor, the response was more, the reason why you're not getting your period is probably the same reason why you're probably not going to be able to have kids. And so what's happening in your body is you have eggs that are supposed to be released, but since your eggs are not being released, they're becoming these fluid-filled sacs, cysts, sacs, and they formulate cysts. So pretty much your eggs are not coming out and they're just becoming cysts. So that is why you're likely not going to be able to have kids. And so following that, I was like, oh, okay. Look, I'm in my early 20s at that time, so it's not like I was even thinking of children, but I did have an understanding growing up, being surrounded by the community and my family, that I was like, oh, I think when women generally get older or at some point, they just have children, and then, that's how you become a mother. So through that, I think it dove deep even more in terms of understanding what kind of things can you do with your body to be able to figure out how to get your period to come back, or to undo or manage PCOS or something like that. What can you eat? That's where I took a bit more of an interest in holistic sports nutrition, and get a certification in that, just for even just myself to understand what are the supplements, or is there foods, what can you do to figure that out. So that was my journey. in terms of trying to understand all the things, lifestyle, that you can do to either manage symptoms, but the only symptom I had was pretty much non-existent of something that's supposed to happen in your body, which is your period. So I remember having a conversation with my neighbor, who is my now husband, at the time, where I was just updating on life. And I remember saying, like, look, you know, I just, this happened to me this year, this happened to me this year. And you know what? I actually found out that I can't have kids. Like, I don't have a period. And so it's been a long time, about a year. And I was told by the doctor that I can't have kids. So, or the reason why I can't have kids is, or I don't have a period really, it's just the same reason why I can't have kids. And I have something called polycystic ovarian syndrome, where I have a bunch of cysts in my body. So at that time, I remember he was like, oh, you know what? There's like so many kids in the world that actually don't have homes. It would actually be great for you to adopt if you ever decided to. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. You know, oh, there's people that actually still think that way. And I just thought of that. You know, there's children who have homes. And I was starting my work as a trainer at that time, where I was helping people in a way that wasn't taking care of them while they're already sick. I felt that was more proactive. So I really did enjoy my job as a trainer. It felt like my first job that didn't really feel like work, sort of thing. So navigating that, PCOS, I just thought of it as something that is just part of my identity, I guess, as something that I have, but I'm still able to do things. I'm still able to move. I'm still able to eat. And then it wasn't until I just had a realization after I reflected on my neighbor's conversation, who was my now husband, where I was like, oh, shoot, yeah, there actually are kids in the world that don't have homes. And that doesn't mean, you know, if you have, let's say, a child, or a child gets adopted, fostered, doesn't necessarily mean whoever's taking care of them isn't necessarily not their mother, in a sense, right? So I was just like, oh shoot, that means like you can still be a mother, but not actually have your own children, you know? So then I realized, I was like, oh, me as a woman, I was like, wait, hold on. If like, never mind thinking about PCOS, if I'm able to have children, or let's say adopt one day, I still can be a mother. So anyways, with that realization, tying it into PCOS, it just became less of a something I focused on being maybe sad about that I can't do, but more so like, oh, okay, it's something I probably have, makes me sort of different, or something's different, let's say, in my body hormonally, I don't know. And I'll just do what I can, and then, yeah, we'll see where life sort of takes me at that point. When people go through health hardships, I think the main thing is that that they're not alone. Surprisingly enough, I know sometimes getting diagnoses or illnesses can be very isolating, and they feel like it's the only thing that's sort of happening to them. Even the rarest of the rare, when there's been science and studies sort of done on it, there's been a few of those people. It might not be easy to reach those people. To be honest, thankful for the internet, because that allows people to also connect in ways that we weren't able to before. So when people face a hardship, I would really just encourage for people to not isolate themselves. I really think there's people out there that do want to listen, and be surprised that when sometimes you put something that you're struggling with, you would probably empower somebody else to come out and be like, hey, you know what, I'm also struggling with that. And studies nowadays show that, you know, you're just stronger as a community versus dealing with something yourself. And we've sort of seen that with people who get diagnosed with even just health issues. Sometimes if, let's say, whether you look into the science and the studies of somebody just kind of staying in their room versus like somebody that maybe tries to get outside or tries to connect with other people, sort of thing, how much one can sort of get better. And so I'm not saying that every health challenge is necessarily curable, and people might exhibit symptoms, but just know that I would say that there's people out there that want to support you, and there's people out there that are also struggling with the same thing, so you're not actually alone. Being a CanPrev ambassador to me is just being part of a standard of excellence when it comes to innovation in supplements, and the strive towards preventing or let's say optimizing health and preventing disease. And so being a CanPrev ambassador, I would just be proud to be a part of the community and that kind of mission. When I think of CanPrev at this point, the color, so whatever got the color, first of all, blue is my favorite color, okay? Putting that aside, I will just always remember it. But now, when I think of CanPrev, I would just say just a really good high standard of quality when it comes to the research and also product. And not only that, I think right now what stands out with CanPrev is connection. And just being able to, especially being in a company that's trying to help people, they're also trying to connect people and help them understand that, you know what, you're not alone. So I really like the community aspect that CanPrev has an approach or just integrated into their company. Long-term goal would just be as long as I can continue doing some of the things I do now, but for a very long time. So, and to educate people on it. If I could give myself, my younger self, a little Kayla, a piece of advice, I would say you are fearfully, wonderfully, and purposely made just the way you are. And so, I almost wish I heard that when I was a kid. Anyways, okay, so that's what I would say to little Kayla. And also I would say that, you know, you're unique in the way that you are. You are unique in how you were made. And so embrace those things. And when you know what those gifts are, embrace it, develop them, harness them, and then share it with people. One message I want to send to all Canadians would be to take small, basic steps and just be consistent with it.